Hello, everybody. I
We
think we are
maybe
live.
if anybody's out there,
Maybe
there's
say
a
hello.
chat thing. You can maybe say hello.
Oh,
Oh,
hey,
hey, people are
perfect.
saying hello. Right on. I
Awesome.
wonder how I see this chat figure. There we are.
Perfect. Well, we'll just wait a couple minutes so that people can join in. Why don't we start by you letting us know kind of where you're from?
Yeah.
I love that this is an absolutely global tiny house conference. It's fun to see where everybody's coming in from. California,
Michigan, and we will even introduce ourselves later. We don't want to ruin the surprise for all the people coming in late.
Yeah.
Colorado,
Very cool.
Vegas, Portland, Little River, Northern California. Cool. People from all over the place.
Awesome. Seattle,
Austin,
very
Texas. Cool. Well, hey everybody. So we are going to talk today. We're going to talk. Actually, we'll ramble on about a bunch of different things. But we will also try to take a few questions. We got Troy off in the background, who is trying to figure out how to get into this meeting, and he's going to answer a bunch of questions that are going on in the chat that maybe we can't get to everything publicly out in the video end of it. We'll do our best.
We'll absolutely do our best.
Yeah, sure. But we'll give it another minute or so, and
You're
then
we'll. Wow.
Yo, cool.
Love it in Miami. Very, very, very
Tennessee. Cool. People from all over the place. So,
well, we are Heather and Kevin Fritz, owners of Fritz Tiny Homes. We own this business with our partner Troy Lupel, and the three of us absolutely love what we do. It's been a wild ride to get to this stage in our business, and we truly love the tiny home community, love building tiny homes and growing our business, and just helping people along the journey. For us, it's all about tiny homes. For us, are a way for us to see people take the next step in their life to more towards intentional living. And I think that's the fun part of my job, is I love connecting with people on a daily basis as to like how they're going to use a small space for their life. So for many, it is full-time residence, tiny house on wheels, or tiny house on a foundation, full-time living, and that is like incredible. And then I talk to people that are looking at tiny homes as a secondary residence. It's that cottage by the lake. It is their getaway house in the mountains. And that's always like really fun. And then we've got people that are looking at these things as Airbnb rentals, or the ecotourism resort. I think since COVID, we all want to travel a little bit differently, and there's room for tiny houses in that too. And so, lots going on. But today,
where are we from, Heather?
We're from Edmonton, Alberta. Yeah, we live in Canada. We build just outside of Edmonton. Our shop is in Devon, a little town on a beautiful river valley. Kev and I and our 4 kids live just outside of town on a little hobby farm. And
Yep.
Our kids are monkeys, and we love it.
Yeah. And so we build out here, and we kind of ship all over the place. So we've gone coast to coast. We have homes on Vancouver Island, and we have whatever the farthest the other way would be, Southwest Harbor, Maine. So
this week, such a great example. In the last 2 days, we have sold a house to California, and it's going to be on wheels, and it'll become a little art studio in Woodside, California. And then today I just sold a tiny house to Venice, Florida, and it'll be our first foundation build. And so we're going to do the Halcyon stay as an A277 modular on a foundation. So literally this week, coast to coast.
Coast to coast. All right. So let's talk about square footage. So we're going to talk about price, but I just want to talk in general about square footage, because tiny home square footage is a drastically different unit of measurement than it is for virtually every other type of building. We actually don't even talk in square footage often here. It's people ask us, and I'm always caught a little bit off guard. It's a very difficult thing to kind of like I don't know, not to justify, but how do you I would tell this story. We had a bathroom in a custom home we did, the McDonald residence. So it was a home we're really proud of. We had this bathroom. It was 5 feet by 8 feet. Do that math for me. So like whatever, 40 square feet, right? But in this bathroom, so we had a tub, we had a toilet, we had a vanity with a faucet, a nice sized vanity. We had a washer dryer combo. Above that, we had a full his and hers closets. And then a giant seasonal storage, and we had kind of like what we call our NORAD, our big like brain system for the utilities and everything there. That was all in this a 40 square foot thing. So for us as tiny home builders, we don't like to talk in square footage because it doesn't really mean as much to us as it might in a regular home. So the result of what I just explained is that everything about square footage gets changed. So if we imagine what is the price per square foot, so we talk about the price per square foot in that bathroom. Now, all those things we just jammed into that tiny amount of square footage means that the cost per square foot on that bathroom was astronomically high in comparison to a standard home. And so the reality is that bathroom also wasn't terribly unique in that home. It was just kind of what happens in the context of a tiny home, where we stack use on top of each other. There is no big empty rooms where we're amortizing, the cost of a kitchen out over all the empty square footage in a kitchen, because we don't have it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is one of the fascinating things about tiny homes, about the cost per square foot. The other things, our foundations are obviously drastically different, and it depends between tiny home builders. What kind of foundation is being used, what kind of materials are being used. And that's one of the beautiful things about the tiny home industry, is that there's a great diversity in what's going on out there. And it's also a portable product, which is really cool. So if you do not find the tiny home builder that you want to work with next door, you don't maybe resonate with what they're building, or maybe you just have something else you want somewhere else, you don't have to work next door. You can work really across the country, or even across the continent. And that's kind of a neat thing. So there is a tiny home builder for everybody, with drastically different price points, drastically different styles, drastically different, everything, I guess. The personalities of the company are different. And that's a really fun part about this industry. The community of builders, and actually the community of people, is one of the really neat parts of being in this industry. We've got to know a lot of builders out there, and a lot of tiny homers or tiny home enthusiasts out there. And they're really fascinating people. Yeah, for the most part, just really good people. So anyway, back to my
so what we wanted to just kind of help out with sharing of knowledge is, so you guys are all here at this conference. Obviously, you're interested in small spaces, in potentially living tiny yourself. And so as we approach choosing a builder and choosing what tiny home for you, we wanted to talk today about things that affect the cost of tiny homes, and maybe offer and shed some light on why tiny homes cost what they do, and how to kind of set priorities. And I think what it all comes down to when we talk to clients, it is about your priorities. What are your priorities? What are your overarching goals as you move towards tiny homes? And really knowing what you want to do, how you want to achieve that goal, and what you want in your home will really then drive the cost. Same with, where do you want to live in your tiny house? A tiny home built for a climate in New Mexico is can be a very different tiny home, or different needs, than a tiny house built for -45 Fahrenheit and heavy snow loads in Alaska. So Kev, why don't you start sharing a little bit about some of your thoughts on that?
Okay, so tiny homes are fascinating things. Again, they're very different from regular homes. Weather, which is what Heather brought up, is a really interesting challenge for tiny homes. Our exterior products, like our siding and our roofing, we look at roofs on houses and they get replaced all the time, because they're getting full exposure to all the elements. Now, a tiny home has the same thing. It has a roof that gets full exposure to all the elements, but because we don't have drip edges and overhangs, and the standard kind of protection that a standard home, that the walls get and the windows get and all the exteriors get, those houses are getting full exposure to the weather all the time. And so one of the things for us that we really focus on is really using high quality exterior products. Metal siding is our kind of go-to. Fiberglass windows, again, a little bit more costly, but a greater longevity, a more durable window, a more efficient window. Much longer warranties as well. And the reality is, these windows are going to have to perform. They're going to experience more weather than a standard window will. The siding is going to experience way more wear and tear than standard siding would on a regular house. So the things that might work in the regular building industry, where you can use more low-cost items and save some money, that sometimes isn't advisable with a tiny home, because you just will not get the same longevity out of it as they do in the residential building world.
And the reality is, if you want wooden siding on your tiny house, there's nothing against doing that. Like, that can be very absolutely beautiful way of doing a tiny home. But you need to know that there is going to be yearly maintenance on that. And do you want that maintenance, or do you not? And so maybe spending more on metal siding, when we do even when you see our designs, the wood, what looks like wood on our tiny houses, on most of our builds is a metal product with a wood print. So it looks so much like wood, but doesn't have the maintenance. And then we're working now with a heat treated product coming out, thermally heat treated product
wood,
that obviously is expensive, but the longevity on that and the maintenance is so low. So yeah, it comes to priorities. You know, sometimes we don't have the budget to do maybe that high end thing that you want, and that's okay. But then knowing what that means on the day-to-day basis, and having yourself prepared in order to take on that work. Yeah.
So then working ourselves from that full exterior into our walls now. Tiny homes have generally thinner wall assemblies because we are trying to save all the space for living inside. We don't want big, thick walls. Big, thick walls allow for really great insulation with more cost-effective materials like standard bats and fiberglass and all that. Whereas tiny homes, if we have thin walls and cheaper insulation, we're just not going to have quite as efficient a home. So we use spray foam insulation for all our homes. We also use a product on the exterior, a sheathing called, it's made by Huber Wood. It's called Zip R. If you drive through a nice neighborhood and you see houses being built with green sheathing on the outside, that's that product. And so it adds another element of efficiency. So it has a thin thermal break layer, a thin layer of insulation that creates a thermal break against all of our studs. And it just creates a more efficient envelope with a really narrow wall assembly. And so, yes, we have to use really, really high-end, really good, efficient building materials to get the performance out of the homes that we need without wasting space. And that seems to be really a theme with tiny homes. Working our way into the house now, cabinetry, glass and windows. Well, oh, how do we spell those? Troy's going to get answers for some of this stuff out in the
Another thing that goes into the cost of our homes and into the performance of them is that we have a lot of glass in our homes. A lot of people approach us and like, oh my gosh, I've never seen so much glass in a tiny house. And glass is beautiful and it allows the natural light in, and it gives you that inside out feeling, and the house performs big and all those things. But glass and high performing glass costs. You do not want to fill a tiny home with low end windows and just start throwing them all over. And if they're not installed properly and have the proper integrity to them, you're going to really hate that you have a lot of windows in your house. And so for us, using that fiberglass window is important to us because fiberglass and glass expand and contract at the same rate. And then with all of those windows, if you don't have a really resilient, high performing building envelope, all of your heat's just gone. And so for us, it's always a balancing of those priorities, balancing the views, all the natural light, but also having a home where for us, we put in an IBC combination boiler for full in-floor heat. That goes into all of our builds. It's one way that we're able to heat our homes really efficiently between that boiler and the exterior envelope that Kevin was alluding to. That package right there allows us to put huge windows in a home that is going to withstand -45 and stay toasty warm. That same application though, which is exciting, is that we can use that application to cool our homes. And so for some, a build heading to Florida, we are probably not going to be putting in an in-floor heating system into that home. The integrity of the build stands. The way that home is built to keep that home warm is also going to, on the flip side, keep that build cool. And then we're going to add a mini split, and that will give the air conditioning into that home. So yeah, just being really mindful of the pros and cons and the way that I feel like everything. Well, Kev often talks that life is full of compromises.
Yeah, there's very few solutions in life, only compromises. And I think that's very true. The idea of if you want whatever, everything's compromised. So if you want the world's most beautiful windows, you have to pay for those windows. If you want the world's biggest windows, you are now going to have less space on your walls for cabinetry. If you want the world's biggest windows now, that's going to be less efficient than a wall assembly would be. So everything is a compromise. And I think that really extends to most of life. And so it's like, pick your priorities and pick what you're trying to accomplish. And then go out and accomplish that and understand that priority will direct your decisions. And so that's how we've how we've done everything with our company and the way we choose to build homes. And actually, I want to touch back to windows really quick while we're still on it. You'd mentioned about fiberglass windows, and the reason that we've chosen fiberglass windows over, say, a standard vinyl window, PVC vinyl window, PVC and glass, vinyl and glass expand and contract at kind of drastically different rates. And so when that window is in the shop on the bench getting tested for efficiencies, it'll score, and they can be very well built, very nice windows. But what happens is over the seasonal changes of glass and vinyl expanding, contracting at different rates, those seals start to weaken. Everything on that window stops performing really quite rapidly. And that's why vinyl windows have such short warranties. Fiberglass and glass, as Heather mentioned, expand and contract at very similar rates, being a very similar product. And so those seasonal movements in with heat and expansion contraction, they happen together, and so those windows continue to perform at a very, very, very high rate for a very long time, which is why you get 20-year warranties with fiberglass windows, and that's unheard of with a lot of vinyl windows. So being thoughtful, again, we could get vinyl windows for quite a bit less money than fiberglass windows, but we believe our priority as a company, when we say, what are we going to compromise? What will we not compromise? We want to build homes that outlive us all. We want to build luxurious homes that people don't get sick of, that aren't high maintenance, and that will be around long after all of us here are gone. And I don't know who's out there, how old you guys are, but I don't care, because they'll be around long after all of us. So that's our goal. We kind of dub them legacy homes, and we want to build homes that will have second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth owners. And so that's our priority. That's our motivation. And so we now have to make decisions in order to accomplish that. And so again, that drives costs and processes with any home. And so,
so yeah, why don't we jump into some of the interior things in our homes and why we do what we do, and how to think about. I loved we were in Toronto this summer, and we spoke on a very similar topic today, and people found it really effective to learn and just some principles to think through wear and tear on a tiny house and material choices and how those meld together. I
will try to stay sort of on topic of what we said we'd talk about. So so we're talking about price per square foot. And again, I wanted to talk about the differences of just the square foot in a tiny house. So I'll touch on a bunch of the price stuff with interior stuff. So I talked about a little bit, not being able to amortize the cost of a home over empty rooms. And what I mean by that is every home in the world has a heat source, or let's say utilities. Every home has a kitchen. Every home has a bed. Every home has all of these things. Tiny homes have what they have. They have an IBC. Our tiny homes have an IBC combi boiler, and every home has a heat source. Now, if that heat source is this cost of that heat source is getting spread over 200 square feet or 2,000 square feet, it doesn't matter. The thing still costs the same. And so the reality is that that's going to increase our price per square foot. Our kitchens are fully custom the way we build them. We do that as a way to, well, maximize every square inch, to maximize the function and style of the home. And so we, those kitchens are not cookie cutter, they're not generic, and therefore they're more expensive and they function better. And so that adds to that cost per square foot. Now, what Heather was talking about was the wear and tear thing. And this is something we've learned in the last few years being a builder. It was a bit of a surprise to us. I'll tell you a story. Actually, I use the same home that I talked about with that let's call it that concentrated bathroom sort of idea. We, in our big home, we have a big kitchen with walnut countertops that I've built. We use our kitchen like a commercial kitchen. We have people here every weekend. We are making beer and wine and cooking, and we have four kids. It is a very, very full life. We use it aggressively, let's just say. Now, I did walnut countertops in a tiny home, and it's fascinating. So we did walnut countertops in a tiny home with a retired couple, two of them, very thoughtful, gentle, wonderful retired couple. Their countertops are wearing faster than ours, and I couldn't figure it out why until I realized when you have a small amount of space, you use it all of the time. And just like the cost of that build does not get amortized over big empty rooms, the empty spare bedroom that was cheap to build, the giant middle of the living room that was cheap to build, wear and tear doesn't get amortized over a building either. If you ever looked at carpet or flooring in a home, and if you look down, you'll see a beautiful carpet that looks like it's brand new, but then you look at the stairs and the carpet's super worn. You look in the hallways and the carpet's super worn because that's where everybody walks. In a room, everybody takes their own path, and all of that traffic gets spread out over a large room. On the stairs, everybody walks in the exact same spot. So what happens then is that wear and tear on that exact same spot is accelerated. Tiny homes are that. They're hallways, they're stairs, they're the thing where we use one space for everything. And so all of that wear and tear gets condensed into one little area. And so what we have learned is that if we're not using the most durable, the most high-end building materials, they are just not going to last as long in a tiny home as they tend to in a standard home. So going back to that cost per square foot, that's why we now use these expensive products. Not the only reason, but like custom concrete. We use custom concrete throughout our homes for our countertops, for our floors, for our shower and tub surrounds. They give us a lot of other good things that we love too, stylistically, flexibility, the ability to innovate, but it also gives us this incredible wear and tear that can handle the rigors of the entirety of somebody's life being lived on it, not spread out across a big area. And so, yeah, again, just bring it back to that cost per square foot. We can use more cost-effective materials, but that would not be fulfilling our goal and our priority of building long-lasting, beautiful homes. So it's it was a kind of an interesting realization for us when we realized that those building materials just wouldn't perform like they do out in the regular world, let's call it. So yeah, so that's there's a lot of things that when you really dig into something, if you're passionate about it, if you dig into it and you start to understand it, like I imagine many of you guys are about tiny homes or whatever it is that you might do for a living or for hobbies. When you really start to dig into it, it's fascinating how nuanced and how many details there can be to learn that maybe you don't see at first glance. And even as a builder, we didn't see at first glance, but you start to learn and you start to evolve and grow as a person when you have your eyes open and you're paying attention. So that was a big revelation for us. Hey, Troy's answering a bunch of questions in the sidelines here.
You guys keep going.
Troy's getting it, I guess. I'm trying to pay attention and talk at the same time, but it sounds like
Why don't we,
Troy's answering everything out there. So
why don't we open up to
so any other questions you guys want to throw out? We can definitely answer them. Do you want to he said mention maybe about delivery?
People asking about delivery across the country, or just I guess one is saying, what have you found average cost for delivery across the country?
We could throw out some like kind of ideas just that you guys can reference. So
delivery is actually like quite affordable, and that's something in the industry that I'm really happy. Our homes go across the border seamlessly. They go across the border duty and tax-free. And so our friends in the United States of America, you are on the right side of the dollar. So we're finding these days about 70 to 75% of our clients are from the United States. So as I said at the beginning, we've got a tiny house in Maine. We've installed a tiny house on the side of a mountain in Colorado up at 10,800 feet. We have a house in Montana. We went down and did that house. We will be in this next year, we'll be installing a tiny house in a backyard in Los Angeles. It will actually be the first tiny house on wheels going through the legal
just the new legal
bylaws. My gosh, tongue-tied. Surrounding legal placement for a tiny house on wheels in a backyard in LA. It's going to be a fun project. Obviously, that install is going to be a little pricier. We need a crane to lift that tiny house up and over the house to put it in the backyard. California, Florida. I often talk in Canadian dollars, so you're looking at about $3.10 to $3.85. I know that that's quite a variety, but you're going to pay based on like weight and length of your home, and also based on driver, and different companies have different rates.
Different services.
That is $3.10 to $3.85 Canadian per kilometer. So go ahead and do your.
And this is, I mean, this is constantly evolving. Different companies have different rates. They offer different services. So but that's just like our experience so far. And there's probably a lot of other experiences out there that to be mined as well.
Our clients are delivering through. Well, we are choosing drivers to
Yeah,
work
third
with
party companies. Yeah.
So if you want to just in general look into that, you're going to look into RV transportation. RV transportation is like a booming business all across North America. People are moving their boats and their RVs from point A to point B all the time. And so when we work with a driver, that's third party, they're fully insured to take our tiny home to site. So that's a huge plus, and a very important part of transportation is that your house is insured and that the process goes seamlessly. So
actually, and about delivery costs and stuff too, to put stuff into perspective. So depending on your project, I mean, we did a project for family's summer home. And so they had this dream of having this summer home. They bought this property and they wanted to build, realized after buying it, it was very difficult to build on, was going to be very costly and take a very long time. I believe 4 to 5 years was kind of the idea of the project. So now all of a sudden that they had young teenage kids, I think 12 or 14, let's call it, in that area. And so by the time this summer home is done, those kids are kind of growing out of it. And so they were able to come to us. We were able to build them a home, have it put in that very summer, in fact, in a long weekend. And so they paid, it was a very long distance they had to travel. They paid $15,000 or $16,000 to have that house moved there. But the whole project was still like, they took like a 1 point off of the scale of the project. And so in the context that $16,000 was really a low amount in that. We have some questions about, actually, let's talk about,
find how far
it's
that
just,
was, but
yeah, we can say
details don't matter.
Yeah, we can keep the details out of it for privacy and all that. People are asking about the cost of building. So, okay, so base price. If we start with our Halcyon 1, which is our smallest model, it's a 28 foot by 8'6" wide. The Halcyon 1 starts at 196.5.
Yeah.
Let's go to our most expensive model to date right now is the Halcyon Lux. It's 244 Canadian. Yeah, Canadian dollars. But if we're being honest, that's a very, very turnkey full service thing. We do add a lot of added services. We add skirting, we add mattresses, we add blinds. Some people upgrade some things, add more windows, stuff like that.
Decks.
On a Halcyon 1 from 196, I'd say an average actual sale price is probably around 225. The Lux, we don't have enough data to tell you that right now, but a Halcyon 2, which goes for 233, 232. People are averaging between 250 to 265 sometimes, depending on how much they want to add into it. So just to give you a realistic idea of kind of what the homes you're seeing on our website might be going for in that range. So that's there. Troy's answering questions. I thought that's great.
What you can touch on is why we choose higher quality materials.
Yeah, I mean, the higher quality materials is really quite simply because of what we were trying to accomplish as a builder. We were trying to build legacy homes. We were trying to build luxurious homes. One of our really important ideas of sustainability is that people need to not grow sick of their homes. If we build tiny homes that people are like, oh, this is kind of neat and fun for a few months or maybe even a few years, and then they realize like, man, I can't live like this. This isn't nice. That's not sustainability to us. That home becomes disposable, maybe not from a quality standpoint, but maybe from a livability standpoint. So for us, we're building luxurious homes that people love, that again, outlive us all, legacy homes. And so that is our driving force behind why we choose the materials we choose. We choose them from a building science perspective. We choose them from a stylistic perspective, and we choose them from a performance perspective.
So Michael is asking, what are dimensions? So if you go on our website, fritztinyhomes.com, under our homes, there are 4 semi-custom set floor plan units that we built. And you can click on each of those semi-custom models, and you can then see the dimensions of that house. So for example, Halcyon 1 is a 28 foot by 8.5 by 13.5 foot tall tiny house. The stay is 31 by 10.5. And then each of our homes has different designations depending on what it is. There is a lot of like different uses for tiny houses, and knowing your designation and what you need in a designation is really important. And I think I'll touch on that just a little bit here.
And just to clarify, by designations, you mean what certification?
What certification
the house has.
So for us, we have 3 tiny homes that fit under either the CSA Z240 RV or the NFPA 1192 RV designation. So that is an RV designation. The home is on wheels. It's pulled with a bumper pull. It is the same certification as an RV sitting on a lot. Different municipalities and communities are going to have different zoning and rules surrounding on, can you live in an RV legally? So that's one way to go about it.
So that designation, sorry to interrupt, that designation will open certain doors and close other ones depending on where you're trying to live and what you're trying to use your home for. And that's true of all the designations, I guess.
We also can, on those 3 homes, build to the MH designation as well. For example, here in Canada, in Ontario, we have had great strides happen with the MH designation. And so for us as a builder, that changes our floor plan just a little bit, mainly surrounding the loft. So we have to increase the height of the bathroom by about 5 inches, increase some of the insulation in the ceiling, these minor things that need to happen. But we're able to do that. The house changes. It has a designation, and that designation in Ontario specifically has landed a lot of people legal placement of tiny houses. Then we also build to the park model designation. Park models are wider. So for us, that's the Halcyon Stay. So it's 10.5 wide park model. And we also, if it's not on wheels, then it's a foundation build, and it's an A277 modular. In the United States, you need to involve an engineer. So for example, for this build heading to Florida, we'll be using a Florida engineer to stamp our plans. That engineer will be a part of the process. And then we will need a general contractor to help with, setting up the site, the right foundation, topography, all that type of stuff. We build the home. It is built and complete, delivered to site, put on the foundation, and stitched and complete, and passes by law that way. So
I'd like to answer a question.
Sure.
Somebody's asking about design. How long does it take to design? So okay, I want to talk about custom homes versus set floor plan model homes.
Goes into square footage.
This is a very big thing about the price too. So when we started, we were a pure custom home builder. I was actually publicly critical of model homes. I said, there's no way you can design a home that will serve people well enough without customizing homes. And I probably said it at this conference. So whoever heard me say that, I apologize, because I've changed my mind. And I'll tell you why I've changed my mind. So tiny homes, at least in the way I design, are really laborious. It takes a long time. It's really a months-long process to build a custom home. Ultimately, you really have to kind of intimately get to know somebody. You have to get to know what they're trying to accomplish, again, what their priorities are, just who they are and what they're trying to accomplish. Then you become an interpreter for them, right? And you try to, I guess, realize all of that life they're trying to build for themselves in the context of a home. And so it's a big challenge, and it's a beautiful challenge. It's really fun and it's really satisfying, but it takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, many hours. Now, something that I realized, where I decided, again, one of the many things I've been wrong about as we've kind of undertaken this journey here, is I've realized that I was reusing a lot of the tricks that I started with in our first custom homes. I would reuse them in the next homes. And I realized that if you have truly, effective or wise design, that design becomes very flexible. And so the reality is like, what I came to realize is that if you build very flexible, very wise designs, people are able to insert their lives into it very effectively. And I wasn't sure that would be possible, but we found it really is. And so what we've done is we've taken all of the stuff that we've learned from designing homes for individuals, and really the hours and hours and months really that we've spent with these people, learning what it takes to build like what would be the closest thing that we can accomplish to the perfect home for them. And we took everything we learned, and we've poured that into some really thoughtful, we believe, beautiful designs in some of these set floor plan models. And what we are realizing is that, they really can suit a lot of different individuals. And now it is not going to be the perfect home for everybody. And there are going to be people out there who really need a custom home. And there are builders out there for you. We may one day again be the builder for that. Right now, we're really focusing on developing a product line that we can serve as many people as possible.
So with having that product line, then we're able to build those homes more efficiently. We're able to take the bottom line of our homes and drop that down. Our cabinet package, for example, is
Halcyon 2 model.
Halcyon 2 is a 185-page document.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as our team gets better and better and better and more efficient, that cabinet package is the same every time.
Yeah.
And we're not starting from scratch, and we're not adjusting and tweaking. The cost for certification to be a certified builder it's a lot of money. It costs to have that third party inspection and oversight that then gets spread and amortized over many models versus the individual client having to pay for the certification that way. Now, that being said, we call ourselves a semi-custom builder because you have a lot of choice in your tiny house. Our clients are choosing what color the exterior is, how that's put together, and what that looks like. With us, you can add more glass or take glass away in our homes. Do you want a dishwasher in your kitchen or not? Do you want a blind package? Do you want mattresses? In the Halcyon 2, there's a 9-foot flex room off the back of that floor plan. And so we, it comes standard as an open room, and you can bring in your own furniture and make it your own. Or we can customize it and put in a full master suite with a bed that lifts up on hydraulics and full storage underneath. We've had, can you put LED lighting in the stairs at night? Yeah, absolutely. Can my couch become a trundle bed? Yeah, there's the added cost. Can we add extra storage underneath? I have a cat. What do I do with that? Well, we have a way of putting a cat litter box in where our IBC combination boiler is, and we can vent that cat litter box so the smell goes out. So these are the types of customizations we're talking about, making a table a bit bigger to accommodate a family of 4 versus 2.
Yeah.
So we still have high touch with our clients to understand how they want the home to be.
Sorry, if you see me smiling out of turn, it's because I'm reading comments and
there's a great question from Soren. I think you should answer.
Is this the one? Yeah. When approaching and researching a builder, what would some key points or questions I should begin with in that conversation? So this is a fantastic question.
Yeah.
And I would go right back to my priorities. So as a starting point, it's like decide what this home is supposed to do for you. Mm-hmm. Decide what is important to you, what your priorities are. That's the very first question you have to ask yourself. Mm-hmm. Right. And then you can take that and now you can go explore and find out what builders share or are able to accomplish that for you. But I would say that, find builders that share their vision for what they're trying to build is on par with what your vision for your home is to be. Mm-hmm. That would be my starting point. That's the number one thing I would look for, right?
If I was approaching, if I was choosing a builder, I would want to know that the builder truly loves what they do and is passionate about their business. And so asking questions like, why are you in this business? Why do you build tiny homes? What sets your business apart? I hope that every tiny home builder would firmly know where they sit in the market and what their niche is. Because the reality is Kevin and I build a small number of homes each year. And so we need a lot of tiny home builders to fulfill the needs that are out there. Yeah. And so there are many ways to build a great tiny house. I know what we do and what we love, and that's a fit for a segment of people. And we're not a fit for some people. Mm-hmm. And so know what your builder's passion is and how they build. Ask questions and see the integrity of the build. Mm-hmm. Know what's behind the walls. Yep. I would choose a certified builder personally, because you've got a third-party inspection.
There's oversight.
You need oversight. There are many builders popping up, and I see a lot in the industry, custom home builders or people that have been years in the building industry going, man, tiny homes are cool. I want to start building tiny homes. And I know that many of them will build great tiny homes, but building a custom home and building a residential home and building a tiny home, we have learned a tiny house is a totally different beast. There are so many things that you need to consider when you take a home and you put it on wheels and start driving it down the highway. And so make sure your builder knows what they're doing and can really answer the questions. Like, I love it when clients come with like an interview for us. Like, I take that as high praise because it gives me an opportunity to really share the why. This is why we do this. Mm-hmm. And there may be a different way to do it, and your builder next door could do it differently, but this is why we do it and why we're thoughtful in these ways. I'd also look into like payment schedules. Like, how is payments working out? Are they requiring 100% of the cost of your build up front, or is there a paced payment schedule? Mm-hmm. You as a client, do you get to see your build in the making? You
Mm.
know, if you ask, can I have pictures of my build along the process? Is that shared with you?
You know what, another really practical one too is what climate is your home getting built to, and what climate do you intend to leave it in? I know that we approach this from a very extreme standpoint where we say, well, we have portable buildings that we hope will have many owners, and so we don't know. Actually, a great story. Our very first tiny home we ever built, which was here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, was recently, it was an Airbnb. She had it for a while and decided she's going to move on from that. It was sold and it's going out to Valdez, Alaska. And so you never know where a home is going to end up. So for me, we always build to worst case scenario because we believe that serves every scenario very, very well. And we never know what life is going to bring about. So we want to have, oh, hey guys.
Welcome. Yeah. Our dog has figured out how to get in our house.
Anyway,
so all the doors are closed and you're in.
Here he is. So anyway, we
it's all good.
Yeah, he's being quiet. So anyway, but yeah, so ask about climate. There's a lot of really beautiful tiny homes out there that are going to be incredible tiny homes in a moderate climate and horrible tiny homes in a cold one. And if you're in a moderate climate, great, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks, Troy.
Yeah. Do you do the full price up front or installments? We do. I'll share our payment schedule. We take $10,000 Canadian, and that secures your build in our build lineup. So we have a limited number of builds each year, and we book, like, for example, today I sold the July 2024 build spot. And so that secures that your build will be delivered in that month. So $10,000. Then when you've gone through the design and selections process, where we have a very detailed document, you are signing off on everything down to the color of paint and the cabinet pole that you're using. We have our build contract. And when we're through the build contract, we take 50% of the cost of the build up front. That gets your trailer on order. We are a certified trailer manufacturer. Our trailers have full steel I-beams in the base of them, and we have like a really beefy foundation. So we need to bring, in order for us to meet that 4 to 6 week in build cycle on the floor, we need to have everything here.
We highly front load.
Procurement is like our biggest pain. So having all of that, then when we show our clients that the house is at lockup stage, so windows and doors are in, spray foam insulation,
all the utility,
all that's there, done. We take the next 40% and then the last 10% plus delivery before it drives off the lot.
Wheels, foundation, time, well. Okay, so somebody's asking. Oh, hang on, Troy.
From Terry before that, how do you think the tiny home values costs will hold up to U.S. recession? There's one. What are your suggestions for true affordability?
Change the world, Vince. What are your suggestions to true affordability? I mean, listen, the reality is that affordable housing is a drastically different thing to different people. So if somebody was downsizing from a 5,000 square foot home and they're like, man, I just can't afford this anymore, I need to downsize. Buying a very high-end expensive tiny home is an incredibly big downsize, and that would be incredibly affordable.
Well, we also talk to people like in Vancouver and Toronto that are literally paying 5,000 Canadian a month for a condo. And it is the same square footage or less than our tiny houses. And then they step into our tiny homes and they're like, oh my gosh, there is more smartly designed storage. I could live a fuller life in this tiny house than in the condo, and it's not going to cost me $5,000 a month. And so it is a pretty big conversation to have surrounding affordability. I would say when you go tiny, you are choosing affordable housing right there. By decreasing your footprint, you are decreasing your consumption. You're decreasing your consumption from electricity, power, and your carbon footprint. You are decreasing your spending habits. Sorry, you're not going to be able to have a shoe addiction and buy tons and tons and tons of clothes if you're living in a tiny house. So things become more distilled and more thoughtful, and life becomes more affordable when the square footage of what you live in becomes less. And so yeah, I hope when it comes to resale, I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know that anybody knows the answer. There's not enough data out there. I know that our first tiny house resold
at a tidy profit, but there's some factors that we have to be very honest about. There's some factors that lean into that. One is that it was our very first tiny home ever, and understanding the true cost of building it and being new business people and all that. And second, pre-COVID. So costs have increased astronomically. I hear what they say on the news, and I don't know if they understand how much our costs have actually gone up, because I just know what the bills are, and they are just high. They're very, very, very high. So there's that as well. The other thing is that the Fritz was our very first home. It was unique, it was beautiful, and there's I guess a scarcity thing where it was the only one that existed, and it seemed like that might have raised the value of it as well. So if you're talking, say for instance, specifically about a Fritz tiny home, if you had a house in two, what would the resale value be? I would say that from a wear and tear, the value of the physical product, it would not decrease all that much. However, if somebody's able to buy a new one, and if we were not that busy as a builder and somebody could buy a new one very quickly, that would obviously affect the value. But if we are very busy as a builder and it's a long wait time, availability could make that thing worth a lot. We really don't know. The reality is the land is not part of the equation. And so that is where it's really hard. It's just a unique industry that way. It is not a depreciating asset like an RV is of that much, or at least our homes are not. Maybe if there was a lower end home, maybe with cheaper materials, that could be the case. But again, we're really just guessing, and we can't give any hard and fast answers about that.
Yeah. Have you had any owner request to switch their tiny home from wheels to foundation after having it a while, and is that difficult to do? What I'll say here is that where that would be difficult to do. So on a practical standpoint, sure, we can take the wheels off the tiny house, put it on a foundation, and
that's
boom,
it. Done.
there we're done. Like that's easy to do. But what you can't do is you can't change the certification on that home. An RV is an RV. That is a different certification than an engineered foundation build.
I have talked to engineers about retroactively engineering. I would say that is a possibility, but not something you can expect as a path forward. So I spoke to a guy and he said, yeah, if I have all of the information of what was done, we could retroactively engineer this to give it a different designation. But I wouldn't call that your plan. No. I'd say that's a plan that's fraught with potential hangups. From a physical standpoint, if you have a house on wheels, like Heather said, the way we build our trailers, we call them foundations, because the tiny home industry, I mean, started.
Yeah, that'll answer this
question. Okay, what's the trailer construction warranty? Okay, well, here we go. I'm going to talk about trailers.
Yeah.
So the tiny home industry started as a real DIY. Like people were like repurposing old RV trailers or boat trailers or car haulers as foundations, and it was really cool. That seemed to like set, I guess, the trajectory for the industry. We are coming at it again because of our priorities. We're coming at it a little bit differently. We don't want to repurpose a trailer as a home foundation. We would like to repurpose a home foundation as a trailer. And so that's why we become trailer manufacturers, so that we could design the trailers that we wanted for our homes.
Well, our homes are heavier, as you heard about like how the integrity of what we're putting into these things. It's a heavier home. So a Halcyon 2 at 37 feet, it is a 22,000 pound home.
Yeah.
That is not something that you are towing to the lake and back.
Our priority is not portability. It's getting it to where it needs to go and getting it to its next home and its next home and its next home.
If you're looking for a really portable tiny house, Minimalist Tiny Homes there. I'll put a plug in for them. The Minimalist Tiny Homes out of Quebec, we're friends with them.
Nomad.
They're awesome. They have a Nomad series.
It's meant for travel.
Yeah, their priority is you can travel. Like you can live a nomadic lifestyle in this tiny house and tow it behind
a smaller vehicle.
A small vehicle. So what we found with the heaviness of our builds on a traditional trailer that we had access to in Canada at the time that we started our company, I'll put all of those things in preface there. We found a lot of flex, and we're like, man, I don't know.
There was numerous things that weren't right for what we were trying to accomplish with our priorities.
We had to build on it. We weren't happy with that either.
Yeah. So we have designed and manufactured our own trailers. We call them foundations. For us to pull the wheels and drop our homes onto a foundation would be somewhat effortless. Again, the legalities of that and what that might mean for your location or where your municipality, that would be a different question to be asked. Our Halcyon Stay, which is our newest, it has the park. It's our 10'6" wide. I believe it's 31 feet long, single story. That one I designed with a new foundation, and it's really designed to be very, very flexible. So it's designed to be able to be built as a modular on a foundation. It's designed to be built as a park model RV, but it's also designed that all of that axle assemblies and tongue can be bolted on and off, exactly for that reason. So that if your needs change, that we can just remove all that stuff and drop it onto a foundation. So I'm trying to design with, again, flexibility with resiliency in mind. And so that's something that that's something that we're really passionate about here. So, So anyway, our trailers are engineered, big steel I-beams. It looks more like a commercial building than than a trailer, to be quite honest with you.
Okay, we're looking for something quick and affordable. We found one that is NOAA certified. We want to use it for a short-term rental. Would you buy one that has this certification?
I don't know a ton about NOAA, but I believe it's a reputable one. Like, I know it. We've never worked with them. So I don't know what their oversight looks like, but it will give you, again, it will open doors for you.
And that's a legitimate oversight.
Yeah, that's do you follow US HUD guidelines? What is it? Company building tiny? Oh, minimalist for the tiny travel ones. Somebody's asking. Troy can pump it in there for
the
you.
Nomad series.
Yeah, so we follow the guidelines that are necessary to get the home into the location it is trying to land, is the simple answer for us.
And that's very, very specific to each client.
Yeah. And
so the guidelines we're following to put this tiny house on wheels in the backyard in Los Angeles. We are working with Los Angeles County with the bylaws that are there.
And they're very open. They've created them for tiny homes on wheels with a NFPA 1192 RV designation or a CSA Z240 RV designation. They have a few stipulations. We're inquiring now about our siding product. They have some architectural controls. Easy, right? Now, that's the easiest way to build a tiny home is with an RV designation. It is the easiest way for us as a builder to build the best home. And that sounds funny, but if we go to the Z241 MH designation, there's a few restrictions in there that we have to meet. And quite honestly, we have to build a worse home to meet these, which is whatever. But it opens the door for people as they need it. When now we're looking at this Florida build, we're looking at potentially another one in Sedona, Arizona, where these are now foundation builds. And so now we have to meet Florida building code and have it engineered and approved by a Florida engineer and everything else. So that is now what we will have to build to. In the Arizona, it would be the Arizona, Sedona, right? So that way, again, I've designed a building that will meet both of these codes without a whole lot of tweaking. But for instance, our windows will have to be hurricane rated in Florida. So that's a variation that we have to add to it. So yeah, so we have to meet the necessary code to get the home where it needs to land. Simple as that.
And I would say, like, honestly, here's the honest answer. I would say about 50% of our clients are following the legal pathway of whatever bylaws surrounding tiny houses on wheels or the, foundation build and going that legal route, right? That's a lot of knowledge, work, and red tape, but it can be done. And it's beautiful when it's done that way. And I can't wait for more and more and more counties to create opportunities. Lindsay Wood, she's a part of here, and the work of the Tiny Home Industry Association in the US and tinyhouse.com. Like, these are our people that are really pushing the work that Dan Fitzpatrick is doing across the US is incredible. And that's awesome. I also work with a lot of people that go, I'm not doing it. I'm living on rural land. Nobody's going to see. I have an opportunity to live with my brother and he has a farm and I'm going to live on this rural land. Or I bought a piece of property in Nova Scotia and it's treed and I'm going to live fully off grid. There's ways that people do that too. And I just say at the end of the day, you need to know yourself, you need to know your priorities, and you need to know how you're wired.
Yeah, make decisions.
If you can't sleep at night thinking, oh no, someone might come and call me out on my tiny house, please do not just spend over, $200,000 on an investment that is
going to cause you stress.
But others are like, I don't care. I'll just move somewhere else. Like, life always has a path. Like, we'll make it work. And then there's people that we build for that really just are so relaxed and are like, hey, if it doesn't work out here, I'll know there's another spot and we'll move it over there. Well, great. Like, I'm not going to say no to coming alongside you in that way. Just, I think, know yourself and know you need to ask those questions. And then who can support you in that journey. And that may be hiring a tiny home consultant. Tiny home consultants can really be a part of the process of hooking you up from builder to legal placement. And then obviously we've got financing component.
I don't know when we're supposed to get off, but I want to answer a question real quick about somebody with mobility issues. Oh, did you? Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, we have like an interesting project going in right now into Washington. So it's going to be an actual mother-in-law suite for a mother-in-law moving into a backyard. We'll have to wrap it up. Okay, we'll do this really quick. Anyway, we're going to lower the house down. We're going to remove the wheels, lower the house down, have decking all on a single level. We're actually going to be putting multiple buildings on, studios that are all connected, and really make it quite accessible.
Main floor,
master bedroom, and all that. Yeah. Okay, guys, we're getting kicked off of here right away. So thank you all for everybody who kind of hung out with us and listened to our ramblings, and hope there's something that was valuable. I'm sorry if we missed any of your questions. We're doing our best, and Troy's doing his best.
If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are very active on social media. Our Instagram is one of our great ways to follow along. It's at Fritz Tiny Homes. We post daily about, you can see us build behind the scenes building, educational content, some intentional living family content there too. So it's a great place to connect. I'm the one that runs that platform. And so if you reach out and ask a question, you're asking it directly to me. Same with Facebook, TikTok, and our YouTube channel as well. Lots of information. Our website, Troy will pop it in here.
But
and ask
if
questions.
you Google Fritz Tiny Homes, you will find us. As far as we know, we're the only ones. So anyway, guys, thank you for following along. Again, I'm Kevin Fritz, and this is Heather Fritz, and Troy Lupel's hanging out in the background answering questions. Thanks for having us here, and enjoy the rest of the conference. It's a good
there's
one.
a lot of great
There's a lot of good
way,
stuff for you guys if you're paying attention. Absolutely. So we're adorable. I guess we get off here.
Okay.
Okay, guys.
Bye.
Thanks very much.